Okay, just waiting for the end of the previous story from Brenda, which I already interpreted. Now we're going on to the next person. Here we go. My family could all hear. I actually contracted meningitis when I was 3 years old and then became deaf. I was in a coma in the hospital after that, and I actually remember waking up and seeing my mother reading, and I saw her moving her mouth, but I didn't hear anything coming out of it, and I wondered where her voice was. So at that point a doctor was called in, and it was determined that I was deaf from the illness. I had a brother who was a year younger than me. They were actually trying to figure out what the best school for us would be, and my father was from California at the university, and there was a school for the deaf nearby, Fremont School. It was quite near there, and there were dorms that were nearby. So my father contacted the school, and actually there was a program for deaf education at the local university, San Francisco State. So there was a tit for tat agreement where they were able to get money for teaching to get me into the school. So I learned my reading and writing at that point, beginning at 3. And they put me into a class with all hearing. I'm not sure why. There were no deaf kids there. There was a school in Southern California. That school had good opportunities, so moved to Long Beach with my family to go to that school. And there were 12 other students, deaf students in the class. This was up to grade 5. It started bright and early in the morning in a mainstream situation. I was the only deaf person in a class of all hearing kids. And then that was what it was like through elementary school. And then in high school and middle school, there were no special services for me because I was the only deaf person. I went to Long Beach State University after that. It was called Long Beach State. And then I heard about Gallaudet at that point from one of my teachers, a friend, who had been there. So I started asking him about that. And my parents knew about it, but they were not supportive of it because it was not an accredited university. So I was later on in New York and decided to take a visit down to Gallaudet, and at that point it had become accredited. And so I went to Gallaudet at that point, and that was my first exposure to any sort of deaf culture or sign language. And you know, I took a lot of classes. They were not particularly rewarding. I learned sign language. I learned about deaf culture, but I didn't really learn ASL as a language until I went to Cal State Northridge. there was a particular book that was not particularly conducive to learning either. It was a great place to socialize and be exposed to deaf culture, but it wasn't particularly academically rigorous. And then I did many years of traveling and went back to Cal State Northridge for more advanced study and studied with Larry Finger. He taught a class called Deaf Adults in the Community, something like that. And at that point I realized that, wow, deaf people have a culture. ASL has a culture connected with it. So that's what got me into it. Now we have Judy. Growing up, I knew no deaf people. I saw people talking. I learned how to read lips because that was the only way I knew how to communicate. There was a school for deaf people that I heard about later, and I'm stopping because I am lost.